what we want to do is make sure that we do not catch the downfall of a particular token. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Baking Analyst channel, and on today's video we're going to be talking about the top 5 habits that are keeping you poor in the crypto space. We'll be having a look at what these habits are and giving you actionable tips on how you can avoid them. I'll also be sharing some of my own mistakes so you do not make them as well. With that out of the way, let's jump right into today's video. So the first habit on the list is going to be not understanding tokenomics. Now, a lot of tokenomics has to do with both demand side and supply side. So the next time you're trying to buy a token, ask yourself, what am I buying this for? Is it to pay gas fees? Is it to vote in a large ecosystem like you would on governance tokens? Or is it just a short-term play? Understanding the demand side and the utility side of the tokenomics is always important, and a lot of the time the mistake that people make is that they go about looking at just the supply side of the tokenomics and whether or not there is a burn mechanism without ever considering things like utility. And when it is revealed that that token is basically something that does not have any real use or any sustained adoption, for instance things like farm tokens, then the people who buy into the hype when the team is launching that token end up being the ones losing out. Number 2 on the list is going to be the issue of not understanding liquidity. Now, in order to understand this, we can have a look at this deck screener page over here on a relatively low liquidity token. You can see that the liquidity is only 21k. Now, what does that mean? That means that even if a pool on the surface is paying out 500% APR and should theoretically pay you about $500 a day or something, you have to remember that because the liquidity is 21k, the maximum that you can possibly extract from this pool, even if you owned the entire share of that pool, is going to be 21k. So in such cases, thinking that you will be able to make $500 a day, $15,000 a month is simply not realistic. And the lower the liquidity, the easier it is for yields to get diluted, because the more people enter a particular pool, the more people are within that pool to share the same amount of fees. Moving on to habit number 3, which is going to be not diversifying or being tribal. Now, we have seen in so many cases previously that being a maxi does not necessarily pay off. We've seen things like the Harmony Bridge exploit, basically dropping all of the pegged tokens on that chain to close to zero. And we've also seen the depegging of USDC. So once again, diversification applies to stablecoins as well. There is no one best stablecoin. The best stablecoin is having multiple stablecoins. So this is something that we have probably learned from the previous few weeks, and something that personally I have made the mistake of doing earlier on in my DeFi career, where I invested most of my funds into 1 or 2 ecosystems. So let's move on to the 4th thing on the list, which is going to be having unrealistic expectations of price. Now, a lot of the time when a new token is just launched, there will be wild predictions that throw all sense of reality out the window. For instance, the idea that Arbitrum would launch and go to say $10 and stay at $10 over time. Now, we actually did a video on how we valued the airdrop, and it came pretty close in line with expectations. You can check out that video somewhere up here. What my point is that if you are looking to predict the prices of tokens and want to stand any chances of getting it somewhat in line with reality, as well as prevailing market conditions, you're going to want to do some peer analysis. And in terms of exactly how to do that, you can do it by looking at comparables. For instance, is that token a token from a leading DEX? Then you want to compare, say, the overall market cap of this particular DEX to that of, say, PancakeSwap, and work backwards from there. Another popular measure that we used to value the Arbitrum ARB token was the market cap to total value locked ratio, in which we took optimism as a comparable. Now, with that, we saw that Arbitrum, for instance, has over twice the total value locked optimism, indicating that if the governance tokens were to be valued in a similar way, according to the market, then prices should fall relatively in line, of course subject to various speculative factors such as hype that could increase the price further. Now let's move on to the 5th habit on the list that is keeping most crypto investors poor, and that is going to be buying into the hype. Now, a lot of the times when tokens pump greatly, you're going to see huge news coverage both here on YouTube as well as on various crypto publications about that particular token's performance. This could then drive people to enter this phase of FOMO where they then go ahead and buy even more of it, leading to them eventually being dumped on by the people who bought earlier. The reasoning behind this is that if you're only buying a token for the hype, rather than following the aforementioned steps of analyzing its tokenomics and making sure you have a rationale for why you want to hold it, then that is going to be something that will lead to losses in the future, particularly as coins get overbought. So those have been the 5 habits that are keeping most crypto investors poor, i.e. by helping them lose money. If you don't want to lose money, however, and want to find out how you can earn some passive income on your crypto assets, you're going to want to check out this video over here. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.